Well, I'm remembered for something anyways. Turkey. I'm glad to be back. One of the things holidays are for is to renew, to refresh, and to just regain. And I do that when I can come here.
Thank you.
Mike, the singing, the choir, everything, the people. It is renewing, it is refreshing, it is wonderful. It's also hard to say no.
To Caroline.
To Caroline.
To Caroline when she's tag team with Bernice. How do you say no to that? And then I said, well, if they're going to be singing, because I love the music you guys provide. And she's, well, we're at choir practice right now. So then I thought, well, okay, I've got one more. When I came, I didn't bring my Bible. I just brought the computer and that little, little thing, the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call those things. I'm not good at that. And Karen said, well, you can use it, but it's likely going to time out on you. And I thought, oh, good. It'll time out on me. And then she said, call Wayne. So I called Wayne. And Wayne happened to bring me the very same Bible that sits on my desk at home, my study Bible. So he's got the same one. Wayne, it could be a little bit more tattered. I didn't say that out loud. So anyways, it's good to be here, and I just want to share a few things with us. I had a thought, and I've heard comments tonight, and I don't know how the things work the way they work, but they do. Anybody here just have one of them days? When, oh man, you don't want to have another one like that, right? And you just get through that one, and the next one is even worse. Right? You ever have those days? Everybody here have those days?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, going through Mark tells us that Jesus occasionally had some of those days. So I want to look at some of those days that he had. We're going to start Mark chapter 5. And you can follow along with me, but I probably won't be hitting every verse. I'm just going to be working my way through it. They came to the other side of the sea, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as he got out of the boat, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the tombs and met him. He lived in the tombs. You see how it's starting already?
Yeah.
He's climbed out of the boat. The first thing that greets him is stepped right out of a tomb. Literally. He lived in the tombs. No one was able to restrain him anymore, not even with chains. Because he often had been bound with shackles and chains, but he snapped off the chains and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. And always, night and day, he was crying out among the tombs and in the mountains and cutting himself with stones. Now, I traveled from Gravenhurst all the way down to Nova Scotia. Gravenhurst is the gateway to the Muskokas in Ontario. And up there, everybody says, you got to have a cottage on the lake. I said, I got a home on the ocean. I don't need one. But I came home. And I got out of the truck, and the phone started to ring. And I thought, it's going to be one of them days. Anyways, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt down before him, and he cried out with a loud voice. I'm just checking the English in Wayne's Bible here. And he cried out with a loud voice, what do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, do not torment me. For he told them, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. Well, what is your name? My name is Legion. He answered, because we are many. And he kept begging him not to send them out of that region. What a greeting. At least it was a good big greeting, don't you think? Lots there to greet him. Okay. But think about it. The guy, you can imagine what he must have looked like. Chains hanging off him. Living in the tombs. Probably hadn't seen clean water for a little while. Right? So you can imagine what he smelled like. And you know who he was. Now you know why he was in the tombs. Because he was pure demonic. And not just one. He was an entire legion. A legion at that time was about 6,000. At least there was a lot there to meet Jesus. The first thing Jesus had to contend with when he got out of the boat, a legion of smelly, death-ridden demons. Now here's the part I don't like. The other part I'm not keen on, but this part I really don't like. Some of you who know me will know why. Now a large herd of pigs was there feeding on the hillside. And the demons begged him, send us to the pigs so that we may enter them. You know why I don't like that one? I was a pig farmer. Now what a waste. What a waste. Anyways, so he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and a herd of about 22,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. Now this part I do understand. The men who tended them ran off and reported it in town and the countryside, and the people went to see what had happened. They came to Jesus, saw a man who had been demon-possessed by the legion sitting there. Get this. He was sitting there, not ranting and raving, dressed in his right mind, and now they were afraid? Okay. The eyewitnesses described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and he told about the pigs. And then they all begged him to leave. Get out. Sort of like what Dr. Spencer was saying, you know. Where our mindset is, that's what we think is important. To them, the pigs were important, and they were afraid of the demon-possessed man sitting there in his right mind. He couldn't win. He just couldn't win. First thing that encountered him was 6,000 demons. He healed the fellow that had been possessed. Mind you, he wiped out a swine herd. Okay? And because of all of his good deeds, told to leave. Now it had to be one of those days. What do you think? We try so hard sometimes. And that's the thanks we get. I'm going to skip a little bit. When Jesus had crossed over again, see, Wayne, if you use it more often, the pages wouldn't stick together. Let me get back there. When Jesus had crossed over again by the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the sea. Now, was this a real large crowd, or just one who was a large crowd, or was this a lot of people who were many? You figured it out. Okay. One of them, the synagogue leader, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet and kept begging him. You see this one coming, don't you? Well, you should. Who was Jairus?
Religious leader.
He was a synagogue leader. How popular was Jesus with the people of the synagogue? Not very. Man, I was just across on the other side of the lake. They told me to leave because I helped somebody. Now I got a synagogue leader begging me. It's going to get better, Mike. It has to, because it can't get much worse. So, all right, let's see what he wanted. My little daughter is at death's door. Come and lay your hands on her so she can get well and live. Well, that's what Jesus does. So we know where this one's going. Okay. So, Jesus went with him, and a large crowd, there's that large crowd again, was following and pressed against him. A woman suffering from bleeding for 12 years had endured much under many doctors. We all know the next line. She had spent everything she had. And was not helped at all. Obviously, she didn't have a good health care system. On the contrary, there's no laughter coming from the back row back there. I don't know why. But on the contrary, she became worse. But having heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his robe. For she said, if I can just touch his robes, I will be made well. Now, I thought about trying this here with you to see if we could kind of put this together, but if we multiply ourselves by about 100, okay, we're all going to jam in this room, and you're going to be Jesus for us, and someone from the back there is going to be this woman, okay? You're all going to be in the aisle right here, okay? You got that? Okay. And the person back there is going to touch you. Remember, it's one of those days. She's been waiting. She wants to see Jesus because she knows Jesus is the only one. She tried the doctors. She gave them every penny she had. And
She was worse.
it was worse. Right now she's broke. Okay, so you get the picture. Okay, only one person can heal her. He's up there. She's back here. But she knows all she's got to do is touch him. Now, I picture this in my mind. How do you think she got there? I imagine she crawled. She's crawling on her hands and her knees. And just about the time when she can almost see where he is, this Jairus fella shows up and says, my daughter is dying. And Jesus says, because Jesus always says, let's go. They go. Get the picture?
Yes.
It's one of them days. Right? But she's had her fingers stepped on. She's been kicked sideways. But she's determined. She knows all she has to do is just touch him.
Amen. Amen.
And she did it. And instantly, she's healed. Okay? Remember, it's one of them days. It's one of those days because Jesus normally is the giving of God's healing. Jesus offers God's healing to everyone. He gives it. But this time, it was taken from him. Okay? That's a new one for Jesus. Taken from him. He knows it went out. And he turns around and he said, "Who touched me?" And the rest of you are doing exactly what he's saying. Yeah, you go sit down because it's been a long day for you. How are we going to figure out everybody touched you? Right? But one touched him. And she knew that he knew that she knew. We'll stop there because it's going to get confusing. And she comes, still on her hands and knees, and she confesses before Christ. She's restored. Kind of amazing.
Yes.
Good part of the story. Okay, but it's been one of them days, remember? Jairus is standing there while Jesus is trying to figure out who touched him because his daughter is... Keep moving on. You got the book, you tell them.
She's at death's door.
Too late. Servant comes to him and says, "Don't trouble him any longer. She's dead." It's been one of those days. All his hope is crushed. His little girl, who he would do anything in the world for, has died. And you know how I know you do anything in the world for one of your little girls? You see this thing on my arm? Lobster Fest, or Lobster Carnival over in Pictou. And my little girl said, "Yeah." You know, don't you? But Jesus says to him, "Don't worry. Don't worry. She's not dead. She is simply asleep." So, Jesus said, "Don't be afraid, only believe." He did not let anyone accompany him except for Peter, James, and John, James's brother. And they came to the leader's house, and he saw a commotion. The paid weepers and wailers were already there, wailing outside loudly. I added that part in there for you. He went in and said to them, "Why are you making commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but is asleep." Remember, it's been one of them days. What happened first? He got out of the boat. He was assaulted by about 6,000 demons. They smelled bad, you know. They lived in the tombs. He got rid of them, inadvertently, you know, drowned a whole herd of pigs. Townspeople didn't like it. He got told to leave. Gets across the lake, gets assaulted by another crowd. Okay? It's one of those things. What are y'all standing around here weeping and wailing for? She's not dead, she's only sleeping. You know what they did? They laughed at him. They thought he was crazy. Don't you hate those days? You can't do anything right. You study all your life to be a doctor. Somebody comes to you who's had hemorrhaging for 12 years. She pays out every penny she's got. It's a healthcare system, I can tell you. Not ours, hers. Okay. So they started laughing at him, but he put them all outside. He took the child's father and the mother and those who were with him, and they entered the place where the child was. They took the child by hand and said to her, "Talitha cum," which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Well, something had to go right that day. And immediately the girl got up, began to walk. She was 12 years old. Now, all these people knew who Jesus was. But when they saw this, tell them, what's it say?
They were completely astonished.
They were astonished. Come on. How long have they been around him for? Why did they come to him? Why was Jairus there? What were they anticipating? What were they expecting? They're astonished. One of them days. You could just see Jesus scratching his head saying, you know, I'm glad she's up. Get her something to eat because she's probably hungry. Right? So they did. So, then he gave them strict orders. No one should know about this, and said that she should be given something to eat. Now, after you've had one of those days, or maybe a couple of those days, or several months of those days, right? What do?
Go home.
You go home.
Vacation.
Vacation. And you have Caroline and Bernice take you. But thankfully, I didn't need to go see the doctor because after traveling all that far, I don't have much money left. You're going to get even with me, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so I went home. Resting. Relaxing. Being with people that love him. Care for him. Appreciate him. You've all been through that. You've all been somewhere where you know someone who has gone off to school forever and ever, amen, and they come home and they're exactly the same person they were before they went away to school forever and ever, amen. Nothing changed. Right? And he spoke with great authority, and people marveled at him, but then someone recognized him. Isn't this the carpenter, the son of Mary and brother James? Aren't his sisters here with us? That one little revelation. One little revelation. He was the carpenter. There's his brother, there's his sister, or brothers, there's his sisters. You thought the reception you got from the people across the lake when he cast out the pigs, or the demons into the pigs, was bad. His own family was offended by him. Everybody who knew him was offended. Jesus said, "The prophet is not without honor except in his own hometown, among his relatives, and in his household." So he was not able to do any miracles there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and he healed them. And here's the line I love the best. You already know it, don't you? Yeah, that's because you're reading it. You're cheating. Here's the one I love the best. He was amazed at their unbelief. He was amazed at their unbelief. You know, if you stop and think about this, you can see it. You can see him being amazed. The woman who touched his robe, what did he say to her? "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, be free from your affliction." She is not dead. She is merely asleep. Immediately the girl got up, began to walk. He said to Jairus, only believe. He was amazed at their unbelief. That's how I know it had been one of those days. Everything he had done, everything he had offered, and they're offended by him. Two people weren't, maybe three. But it was one of those days. You can see it, can't you? You ever had a day like that? You wonder why, right? You think, I'm going back to bed right after the cereal and the toast. But let's stop and have a look at this now. He got out of the boat in the area of the Gerasenes. What happened? Do you know what happened? He created the very first missionary. Even though he messed up with a herd of swine, even though he got kicked out of the area, he created the very first missionary. Right? Okay. He got back in his boat and he went across the lake again. And who was there?
Large crowd.
The large crowd. Who was in the crowd falling right at his feet when he got there? Jairus, synagogue leader. You think the synagogue there was ever the same again? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. You think the people that saw that little girl standing up laughing, being a 12-year-old little girl, would ever be the same again? No. You think the lady that had the hemorrhage for 12 years that the doctors were not able to help, you think she was able to forgive them? And when he went to his own hometown, he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. So it was one of those days. And we have those days. And we think it is time to go back to bed and just pretend this whole day never happened. But did you notice what happens when God is in that day?
Yes, amen.
Missionary,
Yes.
turn around in the synagogue, woman healed, little girl restored to life, and even in his own family, a few people healed.
Yes.
Now that's got to be a good day.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
So, when we have those days, and I know we all have them, don't look at it from your point of view.
That's right.
Amen.
Look at what God does through you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Let us pray.